Many of us have either read or had it read to them beloved stories that captivated our imagination. Now, I am not a betting man myself, but I reckon that only few, if any, at that young age gave a pause or two thinking about the hidden gems that color our heroes and heroines. If you haven't, you're in good company. For the glitz and glamour knows no age, and we immediately transpose ourselves into the characters. We change our reality and we become one of the story. Let's pause it here for a second. Is it that different for us, the adults in the room? Did growing up change this for you? Do you have that one moment in the past to which you go back and never want to return from? How often do you wish for a time machine to go back to when things were different? To when you were the hero of your own story? Back then, we became one of the story. During the day, we protected the kingdom, healed the sick and fed the poor. We did not shy away from a just fight, and despite the richness of color, we did not seek color, since we sensed the beauty in color. At night, underneath the star-filled sky, we laid down our swords and picked up the lute. We professed our enduring love and sang poems that transcended time and space. We were able to do all of these things because we felt safe and we felt just, and above all, we were not afraid. Of all the stories I've read, it is Cinderella that I most often come back to. You may see it as a rags to riches tale, a testimony to how through hard work and yes, a stroke of luck, one overcomes adversity to achieve greatness against all odds, and you would be right. Still, what if there is more depth that we can uncover underneath the things that we so strive for, the happily ever after? Prior to putting my thoughts on paper and my voice to this channel, I freshened up on the text of Cinderella, and boy, this was more than I bargained for. Say what you want about the Grimm brothers, but those two could go dark when they wanted to. You don't believe me? What about a toe and a heel being cut off? Or vengeful pigeons plugging guys off? Don't take my word for it. Go and read the original story, and for some of you, it would definitely be different from what you remember, or from what I have just read to my 4-year-old daughter. No more pauses for now, and let's pierce the veil. We start the story with a man losing his wife, who, as she lay sick, called upon her only daughter to give one last motherly advice. "Dear child," she said, "be pious and good, and God will always take care of you. And I will look down upon you from heaven and will be with you." You see, from early on, God is brought on board to teach one invaluable lesson. Do good, otherwise God will not be with you. And this speaks so much to the Judeo-Christian upbringing that many of us have been raised into, but I think the message is relevant for most religions. Maybe you remember those you should be pleasing in front of the Lord, or the very commonly met, what would Jesus do? You know, I will do a personal pause here, and as I was struggling with my faith some time ago, I kept coming to one single question. Why do we need God to be good? Shouldn't we be kind to our neighbors and the ones in need because it is the right thing to do? Should we judge faith or the absence of faith? Color or color persuasion in the absence of God? Or do we do this because of God, maybe in spite of God? If we go back to our story, we would next proceed with a mourning period. When once ended, the father took himself another wife, which, as we all know, brought 2 daughters into the family. And for our heroine, this was the start of a period of hardship, difficulty, and misfortune. She was first laid bare of her shoes and garments. She was casted away to the kitchen to fend for herself as well as for her now extended family. And at night, under the roof of broken dreams and promises made, she laid her head next to the fireplace, where a small piece of partly burnt coal bore witness to her life's trials. And I present to you Cinderella. My dear listener, did you or someone you know went through something like this? Are you the modern Cinderella? Maybe you were fortunate enough to live in a loving extended family with step parents and siblings that love and cherish each other. Irrespective of where you are, and I cannot say this enough, just know you are not alone. Now, if I were to ask you, how do the stepmother and her two daughters make you feel? We would be justified to feel revolt, to argue that this is unacceptable and that this should never be allowed, and each one of these statements are the right things to say. But do you always do this? You see, blood not only flows, it also sings, and its voice is often cruel, menacing, and unjust. Compassion, kindness, love for our neighbors, these are part of our social construct and contract. But if we strip ourselves down to our bare bones, we are likely to find that this is not part of our initial programming. You see, from humanity's onset, we have been struggling, as we do now. Food, warmth, sex, and shelter were our main preoccupations. As time passed, we made alliances, built societies, and made technological advances that took us beyond anything that the first humans could have ever imagined, but very possibly dreamt of. To ensure stability of our own well-being, we made an agreement for all of us to live together, to help raise our children, and when in need, to lend a helping hand. We next told stories that we came to believe in, and which were at the basis of the moral rules that we committed to abide by. And throughout all of this, fear was our faithful companion. Now, what happens when anxiety kicks in and we are afraid of losing what we perceive of value? We jump in front of the line, we undercut our colleagues, we rob, steal, and murder. All our principles dissipate, and we renounce our contract. The road to the Crusades, the Holocaust, Intifada, Sudan, Gaza, and Ukraine has been walked by men with fears that are as old as time. Now, if we look from this perspective, how should we view the stepmother? Should we view it as a villain? Of course we could. Or as a representation of the darkest parts in every single one of us. And are we ready to admit it? Is she any different from the parents involved, if you recall, in that varsity blue college admission scandal? Where should we draw the line? At making someone's life miserable? Or maybe taking an admission spot from someone more deserving? Now, it's true, if blood is omnipresent, a very fair question would be, where was the father during all this ordeal? Now, if we go to any bookstore, we're likely to find out dozens of books on parenting. Read them as you like, and frankly, we should do more reading. But when it comes to parenting, my personal view, and this is how I narrowed it down, first, put a roof over the head so the children feel safe. Second, build in them, by personal example, the character to be just and do right by others. And third, above anything else, protect them from harm when they are unable to do this by themselves. You see, I believe, my personal view is that this father, though, would not get the Parent of the Year award. And as the story progresses, you feel nothing but contempt for the guy. He stands by Cinderella as she is casted away to the kitchen. She doesn't help her. He does not intervene to discipline his own stepdaughters, and he miserably fails to protect his own flesh and blood. Let me ask you one last thing. What goes through your mind when you cross paths with a prostitute, or see a stripper dancing, or when you see that addict standing on the corner? Loathing, contempt, ignorance? Do you make this a teachable moment for your child, and are you yourself a good student? Now, I have always been a believer in a person's own choice as long as it ties together with accountability. I consider that once you make a certain decision, you either stand by it or you choose a different path, but you never should complain. But what if our choices are not always our own? And that path we are on has been brushed by endless bristles of decisions and choices made by others for us. You know, there is this channel which I have been following, maybe you do too, it's called Soft White Underbelly. If you haven't, give it a try. The channel interviews people from all walks of life, but focuses on those who, in the eyes of many, are the lowest of lowest. You would see those that have chosen a certain path through their own free will and decision making. Of course you would. But for the most part, as you listen to the background of their stories, certain key themes seems to be resurfacing. Child abuse, extreme poverty, rape, incest, and all the things many of us have been so fortunate to never experience happen to those that mark interviews. As you learn about their life, there is this sense of fatalism that takes over when you ponder, did they have any chance at all? Were the odds stacked against these people from early on, and was there any randomness when the dice fell? You see, we fail as parents, my view is at least, when we lose our tone, when we lack a moral compass, and when we are devoid of any affection. So next time, let's move our step slower. Be a witness and consider what would our life have been if you were raised in such a household. Now, this is the end of part 1. I do hope you enjoyed my thoughts so far. Subscribe, give a like, and I'll see you in the second part of the video. Cheers.